Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. Welcome back. Today I have Lex Gillette joining me on the podcast. Lex, thanks so much for taking some time to chat today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. So first question, it's a hard one. Who is Lex?
Lex is an athlete, a Paralympian, a world record holder, a speaker, just a person who loves life at the end of the day. I mean, athletics has made up a lot of my life, and it's been a lot of fun. The journey has been really awesome. But, at the core, at the end of the day, when I go back to my place, it's me as a human being. And, just loving life and enjoying those who are in it.
Awesome. Where did your athletic dreams begin?
In North Carolina. So I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and did the typical kid things. And I found out about sport. Well, my mom's side of the family is the athletic side. So they've played it all from softball, baseball, basketball, everything. And so naturally I was athletic, and I started off playing rec league baseball, and I used to swim. I wouldn't say competitively, but I learned how to swim at a young age and played the typical backyard sports. And then after I'm blind, I lost my sight when I was 8 years old. And after I lost my sight, it was a transition period of me trying to get from seeing the world and then being blind, and then moving into sports again. So I got into wrestling. I got into some adapted sports called specifically goalball and beat baseball. And then I eventually found track and field, and I've been competing in track and field since.
What was the journey into track and field like as a blind athlete?
It was interesting. I think that in middle school, that was my first time ever being on a track team. And so 8th grade, I threw the shot put, and I was, I don't even know, 5'5", maybe 100 pounds, maybe 100 pounds. And that's pushing it. But at that time, it was more of, I was a part of a team. People accepted me and they encouraged me and pushed me. And so that camaraderie piece was really huge for me at that time. But once I got into high school, I took this physical fitness test, one where you had to do an assortment of activities. And one of them was standing long jump. I was really good at standing long jump. And my teacher/coach had told me about potentially going to the Paralympics and competing and representing Team USA. So we started on this journey of competing in long jump, and developed a strategy so that I would be able to participate. And since I can't see what's going on, I have a guide who stands at the takeoff board, and they are clapping and yelling and giving me an idea of where I need to run and jump from. And, from there, it's me listening, running as straight as possible to the sound of the voice, and on the appropriate stride, then, jumping.
And so you've been to Athens, you've been to Beijing, you've been to London, you've been to Rio. One of the things that I like to explore on this podcast with athletes of your caliber is like, how do you first get to this type of level of excellence, and then how do you stay there? I mean, Athens was 2004, yeah. Rio is 2016. Hopefully, the next Olympics and Paralympic Games is next year. What's kept you motivated?
I think one of the one thing is, of course, going to the games and winning gold. That's the only check mark that I haven't been able to notch on my list. And so that definitely motivates me. And I think even more than that, it is trying to just become better in life. At the end of the day, I think that I'm definitely just a curious person, want to explore and discover new things and discover new ways to become better. And I really enjoy challenging myself, because challenges are what help us grow and what help us ascend and elevate to new areas of life. And so as an athlete and just as a human being overall, I don't think that you can say that, okay, I've reached perfection. I feel like there's always something that you can do to grow, to become better, to develop. And it's just an ongoing thing.
So is that what the gold medal would mean to you? Like, you've continued to achieve excellence. It's not about, hey, you're the best in the world, but hey, you're the best you've ever been.
Yeah, I think that, it's hard as an athlete. I mean, you want to get out there and you want those results. And so as an athlete, I want to go and I want to win that gold, but that would be the symbol of that would be much greater than, being able to have that, medal draped around your neck. It's like, okay, this is, to your point. I mean, the result of, putting forth everything and experiencing that success.
Do you visualize yourself being on the podium? How does your approach to mental training come in? Or do you do mental training?
Yeah, it's huge. I think that our ability to visualize is something that we can leverage and use to really elevate us to what we want in life. And so in March, prior to COVID-19, it was me, and I literally thought about competing in Tokyo. I was scheduled to compete on the first day during the evening session. So there's going to be bright lights, crowd is going to be there. And I had it in my mind that, everybody's in the stadium. They're coming to watch me compete. It'd be awesome. And so as an athlete, I speak for myself. I create those scenes in my mind. I'm creating this plot, if you will. And so most times, I was in Tokyo in March prior to even physically being there in August. And so that's really huge for me, because as you tap into that power, once things begin to come into fruition and you actually are now getting on that plane headed to Tokyo, and then you're inside of this stadium getting ready to compete, you find solace in knowing that, you know what, I already saw this many, many months ago. So I put these scenes together. I put the movie together. Let me hit the play button so I can watch how it all plays out. And yeah, I mean, it's huge.
So I understand you're also a musician. So is this sort of art that you're painting in your mind? Do you think that that's what allows you to be a musician as well?
I mean, I definitely think that there is, for me, it's that communication piece is huge. And so when you talk about art, your ability to communicate and explore certain areas, I think that I mean, even as an athlete, like that's a certain that speaks to art as well. I'm not able to verbally communicate with a crowd when I'm competing, but I'm communicating in a way that the crowd is understanding what's going on. They're able to they're seeing that perseverance, they're seeing that determination, they're seeing the dedication and what it took over 4 years to get to this point, to have this one moment in time to represent your country, yourself, your family, and and kind of see who's the best on that particular day. And it certainly I mean, that's a really good point from the artistic side. It's for me specifically, it's like, I want to exhaust everything that's within my being into the sport, and if it's music, with the music as well, so that people can kind of understand where I'm coming from, what it took to get to this point, et cetera, et cetera.
And then the other piece that's sort of similar, I guess, art, maybe it's a different type of art, is you're a speaker as well. How did that come about?
I think that naturally, when you get into athletics and you become successful in it, people, they want to know, like, what do you eat, and what's your fastest mile time or your fastest 100 time, and
Right.
and so I kind of just gotten tossed into it, and in the beginning I didn't really enjoy it, because I think where I was personally in terms of being comfortable in my own skin and embracing the fact that I'm blind, that was, it was just some insecurities that I was dealing with, and the 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 switch came on one day when it was like, listen, at the end of the day, this is not about you. It's about the people who are in the audience. And if you can do something to positively impact their life, and give them something that they can use to apply in their own life, and that thing will help them excel and be better, then that's all that really matters at the end of the day. And so once I latched on to that, it was like, all right, this is pretty cool. And when I was speaking about as an athlete, I'm not able to verbally communicate with the crowd. This is my opportunity as a speaker to be able to get on stage and verbally articulate, what it takes, and my thoughts and ideas on how we can live our best lives.
Do you do like a Q&A at the end?
Yeah. A lot of times Q&A is fun.
What are some of the common questions that people ask you?
Oh gosh. I mean, they range from, what's your, like, how do you experience different cultures? When you go to different countries, are you like super keen to the sounds and the smells, and, what else?
Are you?
I will say, from an audio standpoint, yeah, I do. I use my hearing a lot, of course. And yeah, I think that when I do go to different countries and experience cultures, there are definitely differences in sounds. I mean, the more obvious ones are, you hear different languages, and even the animals sound different. And, that's really interesting to me. We went to Australia one time, and they have these birds that literally sound like crying babies. And it like threw me for a loop, and I was like, man, this is so wild. But yeah, I mean,
You think you're on a plane or something?
hey, it just, like, you hear that noise, and it's 20, 30 feet above your head, and I'm like, whoa, who put a baby out the window?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So with Tokyo sort of in limbo, um, what is your approach?
I think the main thing is knowing that first and foremost is, as it stands right now, it's going to happen. It was tough to get the news that they were going to push it back, but you understand that, okay, this is a postponing and not a cancellation. So we have additional time. Maybe there's some things and areas that um, that I can work on to get better. I mean, there's always something that you can do. And so from a mental standpoint, it was really tapping into that, because if you think about all of the negative aspects of it, then that can put you in a space where it's not helping you at all. And once those types of things seep into your mind, then it affects how you perform. And that's not gonna, having those negative thoughts and ideas in your head, it just doesn't bode well for being the best athlete that you can be, or just best person that you can be.
Do you consider yourself a very positive person?
For the most part, yeah, I think everyone has their moments where things don't happen the way they want, or you may get frustrated or irritated. But yeah, I would say that for the most part, I am pretty positive. I think that losing my sight, like how many how many worse things can happen than that? And it's not many. So every day that I'm alive and have the opportunity to just get out here, have a good time, compete, train, speak, whatever it is, um, I just do it with a smile, and just knowing that, I mean, the worst is behind me.
Has anybody ever told you can't do something that you said, you're wrong?
Oh yeah, all the time.
What's that? What's that like?
I mean, it's frustrating. Well, it depends. Sometimes it definitely is frustrating. And I think that, someone had actually asked me this question a while ago, and I definitely have a certain feeling, emotion that I get when I'm overlooked or counted out. I think that it is, it's just extremely irritating. But on the other side of that, I think there's something inside of me that actually likes that.
The challenge.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you don't think
watch
that
me. Yeah,
I can do this, so let me. It's definitely, excuse me, it's definitely a lot of proving people wrong, but I think even more than that is proving myself right.
I like that. Have you ever struggled with self-confidence?
Yeah, I would say that more in like the early years and losing my sight, and more specifically from a social standpoint, being around friends and them asking me about, like what's going on with your eyes and how did that happen, and can you see how many fingers I'm holding up, or even just friends automatically thinking a certain thing because just because I'm blind. Like, oh, okay, well, Lex wouldn't want to go and hang out at the movie theater. But why would you think that? I mean, I get it. However, we all can experience things in a certain way, and I just don't want to feel like I'm left out. I want to enjoy life and the world just like the next person. So, yeah, I mean, it's still something that I have to deal with nowadays. I think that, if I were to walk around in Southern California where I live, the average person, they don't know who I am. And they treat me a certain way, and they're, oh, do you need help, sir? Do you need me to tie your shoes for you? Do you need me to open up the bag of chips for you, sir? And, but if they actually knew who I was, I think the response would be a lot different.
So what advice do you have for people who may meet you or interact with you or come into contact with you or another, Paralympic athlete?
I think it's just, just treat me like any other person, a friend, or any individual that you might meet out and about. I totally understand there are certain times where I may be out in the public and I may need assistance or anything like that, but I don't think that you should automatically, look at me and assume that, oh, okay, well, he might need some help, or, oh, he must feel alone, or his life must be, one of just darkness, or, maybe he's sad all of the time. Like, I love my life, and there's a lot of amazing things that are happening and have happened, and I know there are some amazing things definitely on the horizon as well. I'm fortunate and pretty blessed, but I'm at the end of the day, I mentioned that earlier. I mean, when I come home, I am at the very core just another human being, and I want to be treated with decency and respect, and
Is gratitude something you intentionally practice?
Yeah, I would say that. I think that showing gratitude is an important thing. Being appreciative and showing thanks, and all of those are huge. I've had a lot of people who have contributed to my life, and they've contributed their time, their energy, their effort, and those are resources. You don't get those things back. You can't get your time back. So when someone gives that to you, I think that speaks volumes. And so you should definitely show gratitude and appreciate them for that, because when you invest time and offer your wisdom and knowledge and experience to another person, you're giving them life lessons and skills that they can use for the rest of their lives, and it helps them to achieve and perform to the best of their ability. And so, for me, man, I can't even tell you how many people have poured into me. But the cool thing too is, I can show them gratitude, but I think that how everything has been unraveling, they live vicariously through this, and they're able to get, a sense of that gratefulness as well, just by how everything is panning out.
That's awesome. One of the things that I like to discuss on this podcast with elite level athletes and elite or high performers in general is the notion of balance or lack of balance. Some people find balance to be important. Other people find moderation, or that there was Lindsay Krause was on the podcast. She's a New York Times writer, and her explanation of balance was that it's a triangle, and sometimes the triangle is equilateral, sometimes it's obtuse, and sometimes the sides are basically the sides are sometimes a different length, and sometimes the training is longer, and sometimes the family is longer, and sometimes the social life and whatnot. So I want to know, what does balance mean to you? Is it something you strive for? What is balance for Lex?
That's a really good question that I've never gotten before. in this fashion. I think that balance to me, I remember as a kid, you had like those seesaws or whatever. And so when you said balance, I think of that and think of how to manage everything in life in a way that it will, keep that seesaw like horizontal. Um, and as soon as you have too much weight from a particular area of life, when it um, weighs down, I mean, it kind of obviously throws that balance off. And uh, speaking to that weight, if you continue to allow it to be a burden and specifically weigh on you mentally, again, it kind of throws you in these dark spaces in life, and you're just not able to perform to the best of your ability. So I think that is certainly being able to manage the aspects of life, both positive and negative. I mean, we oftentimes think about the negative aspects of life, but I think that also if you allow some of that positivity and that success to just overwhelm you, I think that could have a negative impact as well. We are on a quest to be the best that we can be, and so you enjoy your successes and move on and try to succeed again. I'm trying to think back to uh, I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan, and so The Last Dance was on during the month of May, April or May, and Phil Jackson is like the master of all masters, and he had said something to the effect of, "You're only as successful as your last success. You have to keep doing it." And so going back to those positive aspects, yeah, like they're amazing. Enjoy them, but just know that there's more out there to achieve.
I love that. You just said enjoy your successes and move on, which reminds me of a conversation I had with Scott Fauble. He's a marathoner and top performer in his field, and he was the first American at the New York City Marathon. And he wrote afterwards to say, if you don't let your failures define you, why should you let your successes define you? Everything is a data point along the road.
Yeah.
And I think that parallels well against what you said, where it's what's your last success and what's coming up. And so I think it's so important to recognize that, again, from an athlete at your level who has done incredible things. You're not focused on what you've done in the past. You're focused on what you're doing in the future. And again, I think that I've had the privilege of talking with so many elite level athletes that continue to reaffirm this. I spoke with Kara Goucher, multiple Olympian, very successful athlete, and when I sat down with her for the podcast, I said, "Look, you've done some amazing things. I don't necessarily want to talk about that. I want to talk about what's up next and what's in the future." And it was a fascinatingly different conversation than any that she's ever had. Yeah. Because it's looking forward. It's not celebrating, hey, I'm the best in the world. Hey, I'm great. Hey, I'm awesome. It's, I'm good at getting better.
Yes. Yeah. I applaud you for your platform, because a lot of times when we do the interviews, they focus on the successes and, oh, you've won these many medals and gold medals, which I would imagine that all athletes are proud of that. That's an accomplishment. Right. But I think that, to your point, there is much more behind that. And seldom do we have opportunities where people are like, you know what, let's get to the nitty gritty and talk about, like, what is your why? Like where does this come from? And, all of those things that, I feel like at the end of the day, whether you're an athlete or not, those are the things that really are going to keep us pushing and acquiring more success moving forward.
Definitely. And it sort of sounds crass to say, but the COVID atmosphere has been great for a podcast exploring the why, because everybody is exploring the why. Nobody has racing. Nobody has performing. And so if you're only motivated by a tangible time on the clock or distance or PR or whatever, you got to figure something else out that's going to keep you motivated. And so it's been fascinating to observe what's going on with these discussions on Twitter and podcasts and articles and interviews where, people who are used to competing a handful of times every year are and train for events and are motivated by training to sort of do this introspection and figure it out, because there's no time frame on this, really.
Yeah, that is so definitely true.
What's your why? And has it evolved?
I think that my why, my why is, when it's all said and done, I want to leave something beneficial on this earth that wasn't here before I got here. And
I love that.
I mean, that's super broad and vague as to what that thing might be. But I think that we all have something uniquely special to offer the world. And as it stands right now, like I just want to, sow my best into the earth. And when it's all said and done and those days are dwindling down, I'll be able to look back and say, you know what, somebody's going to be able to come after me and use the blueprint that I put out there to, get things started for themselves. And hopefully they will be able to use that to elevate, even higher than what I've been able to do.
I can't tell you how much I love that. I had a conversation with my grandfather last August, and he said that his realization of what the meaning of life is exactly that: to leave this world a better place than when you came into it. And he passed away a few weeks after that, and he left the world in a better place than when he came into it. And that's what I aspire to. That's when I wake up in the morning. That's my North Star every single day. And I think of him, all the time when these types of conversations come up. And if we all thought like that, the world would be a much different place and a much better place. So I commend you for that being your North Star and your why, because the world needs a lot more of that.
Yeah, we could definitely, benefit from that for sure.
On a different note, what do you wish people knew about you?
Wish that people, I think we touched on it earlier. I just wish that they knew that my life is, for lack of a better term, normal. And I think that, we can, what is normal? I guess that's a valid question. But I think my point that I'm trying to make is, I live my life just like, the next person. I wake up, brush my teeth, wash my face, I pick my clothes out, I put my shoes on, I go train, I go to the airport just like the next person, and I do a lot of these things on my own. And I just want people to know that, that I'm just, doing what any other person would be. And I say that not only for myself, but I want them to know that so that when they see other blind and visually impaired people, that they have that type of perception of them that, oh, okay, they're just, they may be living life without the capacity of seeing, but they're doing their thing at the end of the day. And we all have our differences and challenges in life, but when it's all said and done, I mean, we're just out here living and doing our thing.
Awesome. If we want to follow along with your journey, where can we find you on social media?
Oh, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Lex Gillette, LEXGILLETTE, or you can go to my website, lexgillette.com.
Awesome. Lex, thanks so much for coming on today and sharing your wisdom.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It was a great time.
Of course. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run. And in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.